Have you ever taken part in a webinar? I have. My name is Alex. I have taken part in webinars, and I can tell you that sometimes it is very hard as a participant to do something after the webinar. You hear so many things, you get so many information. What do you do with it afterwards? I have some tips for you, some ideas on how to, let's say, pimp your webinar, make it better, and help the learners do something. I've prepared here a documentation of a webinar. So there's a short description of what is going to happen, what are the contents, and then below this, you see the recording of the webinar. No magic. You simply click on the play button and you see the recording of the webinar. Now, what is interesting is the part below it. A short description of the exact contents of the chapters, let's say, of the webinar with jump marks. So you can directly click on this link and then see on the screen, as you can tell here, the webinar activity cards. So here we're going to explain on how to use cards in a webinar, what to do. And you can simply jump to this actual situation and question so that you can access directly the part of the webinar where you had answers afterwards, or maybe you have been distracted by your colleagues, right? This also happens. Below the jump marks and the chapters of the webinar, there's the download of the presentation. I think this is also rather normal. And then one essential part, take actions. How good are the ideas you have in a webinar if afterwards you don't put anything into practice? So here are 4 calls to actions, 4 things, what to do as a learner. You can co-create, book a call, and participate in the project. You can try out TeamSpace and book a demo session, and 2 other options. So you have actual things, suggestions, or let's say recommendations on what to do. Now, one thing that also sounds logic but is ignored very often is the fact that people have questions after the webinar. Now, what do? You take part in a webinar, you have a look at the recording, and you have a question afterwards. How can you contact the expert? How can you contact the trainer? In many cases, this is hard to do. Here it is very easy because we have here a social expert channel. This is what we call this element. As a learner, you can ask your question. Let's just type my question is, and as you can see, I'm not able to type if people watch what I'm doing. Let's just ask it anonymously, so no one knows that I'm the one who is unable to type. I've prepared a few questions for you already, and then you can see that an expert, which is me, has answered this question here in a text form. It is shared with the whole community. There is another one with a short video clip that I made with my cell phone, and another one with an audio file. So it's a very easy way to give learners the possibility to ask questions, connect them with the expert, and he can multiply his answers and distribute it to the whole learning community. As you can tell, this is way more effective than a simple webinar in which you meet people, tell them things, and then everyone goes their way and nothing happens afterwards. So what we recommend to you is enrich your webinars, make them more effective, because what we want is bring people into action. That's your turn.